Alrighty. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the ninth installment of Turn 4 Sparks Controversy. I'm yours truly, Turn 4 Productions, on the mic, along with another NASCAR fan who's been following NASCAR since 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. It was
Since
2014.
since 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Strauss, who, by the way, was in a few of my projects too. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Calvin?
I'm doing well, despite the recent heat waves. Which reminds me, as of this recording, it is currently July 17th, 2024. And if you hear thunder in the area right now, it's thundering and lightning. There's a thunderstorm whilst this podcast is in session. So if y'all hear any loud I guess rumbling, crashing sounds in the background, thunderstorm rolling by. So that's why. If y'all can hear that. But wait a minute. Today's July 17th. You know what that means, right?
Yeah. What is it?
Turbo is 11 years old today.
Oh my God. Yeah, Turbo is a criminally underrated movie. Nobody talks about it. The only reason why it doesn't get talked about is because Despicable Me 2 had more popularity than that.
Well, now that we bring this up, explain.
Like, Turbo is very, very underrated in my books. Yes, it's DreamWorks. It's in the bottom half of their category. But why the hell does Schaeferless Productions rank it as the worst DreamWorks film ever? I mean, it's about a garden snail who wants to go fast. He has all this power in the world that he gets from some oxide shit that went down. And what happened is that he got these powers. He went to Dos Bros Tacos, which probably may or may not sound like the best taco place in the world, or it's just like that. And you're trying to enter the Indy 500. Please. Even Kyle Larson could probably pay more and probably beat Turbo in a race. And by the way, Turbo is voiced by Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds. Go see Deadpool and Wolverine if you can. Please, and fair warning, do not take your children. It is rated R, but Turbo's PG, so I don't want to get too in the whole ratings crap. Woo. And then they have this guy, Guy Gagné. Yeah, Guy Gagné is French, like Simon Pagenaud type. And like Turbo looks up to him, but then all of a sudden he turns into this bad guy on the day of the race. And the rendition of the Indy 500 looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's very accurate of the race track itself.
Which they did. They did a great job with the animation of the racetrack, let alone the race cars themselves.
Yeah, but some of the safety equipment were not even there. Like, the head socks weren't even there on some of the drivers' heads. Like sometimes you see like white sticking out. You could see a little bit of that. They don't have that here.
I thought they did.
They didn't. No, they didn't. I watched it and they didn't.
Did you watch it in the theaters when it came out?
Like right around the time it came out, yes. Because back in 2013, I went to see a Blue Sky film called Epic, which is another underrated movie. And they played the trailer for Turbo, like, because I went there for one of my friends, one of my friends in Manville's birthday parties, and we watched Epic because she probably didn't want to see Fast and Furious 6 because number one, it's PG-13. We were like 9 years old at the time. So that's not going to be a problem because that's going to be an issue because I don't think like with the language that they use, like using all the curse words and stuff like that, that's not really appropriate for kids to be watching unless they're really into race cars.
Exactly.
But their parents have to take them. Yeah, their parents have to take them to see all the Fast and Furious movies. And there's like so many of them.
there's going to be another one coming out in 2026.
Yeah, I need to catch up.
I've seen the first 6 movies in the Fast and Furious saga.
Like I said, with Fast and
Furious 7
Furious
is
6.
next on my hit list.
Yeah.
For those who don't
And
know,
like I like how Furious 6.
Bryce, who is a colleague of mine, an old friend of mine, he was the one that actually got me into the Fast and Furious franchise in the first place. Y'all probably remember him because he was in numerous podcast recordings and numerous podcasts on my YouTube page. But what were you saying, Jessica? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, because like Furious 7 did a tribute to Paul Walker, who passed away in 2013, and they dedicated to the Furious 7 to Paul Walker when he passed away, and they had See You Again, which is an absolute banger.
There goes a spoiler for me because I haven't seen Furious 7 yet.
Sorry about spoiling.
Oh, and disclaimer for those who haven't seen Fast and Furious or Turbo or other movies we're about to mention, spoilers. So I recommend you pause this podcast now if you haven't already. Watch Fast and Furious, Turbo, the Cars franchise, Days of Thunder, Talladega Nights, Rush, etc. Any racing movie you can think of. If y'all haven't seen any of those or any racing film, period, I suggest pause this podcast right now. Do that. Once you do that, come back to this podcast and listen to us reviewing some of these movies. Because if you haven't seen these movies, spoiler warning. Obviously. Speaking of Cars 1, I remember you told me, Jessica, a while back that you were at Atlanta for the Cup race this past February.
Yes. Yes, I was.
Can you go over not only the race itself, but also the most infamous part, the finish?
So what happened is like there was a huge pileup on lap 1 that took out like mostly back markers and shit like that, but we don't need to worry about that. They're not going to play any factor at all. But I mean, what's the point here? Like, and then we got guys that are spinning out. There was a red flag. It's just lots of crazy crap that's going on. And like, I'm just really like furious. Like sometimes I can get furious over something. When Chase spun out, I was like, oh man, because like he finished 14th in the Daytona 500. We're trying to keep that top 20 streak alive. Look at how Chase has been so consistent. He's been consistent throughout this entire season. His worst finish is 21st. He hasn't DNF'd. He also, unfortunately, lost the speed penalty race counter from 92 races. We'll get to that in a little bit. But then the sun went down, and with 5 to go, things started to heat up big time. I was thinking Blaney just won. Blaney just won big time. Because what happened is the last time that my whole family was there all together was the 2023 Coca-Cola 600. Ryan Blaney won that race. And I'm thinking, we're going to do it again. And then here's the funny part. I met Daniel Suarez earlier in the day, and I had a bracelet. I gave one of my bracelets I made away to him. And also, I got Cars 3 signed since he was in the movie. And then what you're about to see was one of the most craziest finishes that I've ever seen in person. It's absolutely nuts. And I would probably go berserk if I heard that again. So we're at 1 lap to go. Blaney's in front. And then it feels like he's going to run away with the win. Then all of a sudden, Kyle Busch comes in on the inside. Suarez comes in on the outside. And they're 3 wide. I'm like, who is going to win this? But remember, smart thing. I watch Cars. And Cars is iconic. It's so damn iconic that we can't recreate this finish. But we just did 18 years later. And what would have been more funny is if Blaney stuck out his tongue, he probably would have won.
You mean?
And also Suarez getting it. No, Blaney was in the middle. And then
Kyle
McQueen's
Busch
in the
was
middle, and then Chick's on the. Yeah, Kyle Busch wouldn't stick his tongue out because he's a veteran. He knows better.
Well, he wants to win. Everyone wants to win, but to your point, Lightning McQueen in the film stuck his tongue out because he was in the center. McQueen stuck his tongue out,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we all know by now. And Kyle Busch was in the center, so it would make sense if he stuck. It really would have been funny as hell if he actually did stick his tongue out from the inside of the cockpit. But still, your point. Continue.
Yeah, and then it was 3. It felt like a tie for a minute, and then we had to do another 10-lap race to figure out who won that race. But that's pretty sad because we can't run a race with 3 cars out on the track.
Well, they did it. The cars won, but then again, that was a championship race and cars won. That was for the championship. Race 2 and it was it race 2? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was race 2 in Atlanta. No point because it was mad early in the season. As of this recording, we are midway through the season. Less than what? 7 races left until the chase starts?
We have 5 races left till the chase, yes.
To my point. I was right either way. And speaking of Kyle Busch, he is at risk of missing the cut. Again. I say again because if he does miss a cut, it won't be the first time. 2009 and 2012, he missed the chase. Despite 4 wins in 2009, he still failed to make the chase regardless. When Kyle Busch wasn't winning, he was inconsistent, and let's just say the temper that he used to have at the time got the better of him. Same for 2012 to a degree, but 2012 was a mediocre year for Kyle Busch, to say the least, in general.
Exactly.
Hence why he didn't, despite winning 1 points race in Richmond. But the funniest thing is he didn't win a single Truck Series race or nationwide race in 2012. That's how bad he struggled. But again, my point still stands, or what I said, coming back to Kyle Busch, on the brink of missing the chase this year. If it happens, I will be surprised, but simultaneously not surprised, given RCR's recent luck. Given the fact that RCR is not one of the greatest teams on the grid right now. Rewind the clock 30 years, then I'll be saying this completely differently. When Dale Earnhardt was winning races and being consistent on a race-to-race basis and winning the 7th championship at season's end at Rockingham. But still, my point still stands. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree because, like RCR has not done jack ever since Dale Earnhardt won that title in 1994. And then we have Austin Dillon. What has he done in 11 years of racing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He got 4 Mickey wins. God, Mickey wins are bad. And they are just like handed to you after something from another driver goes wrong. All that that went down.
2017 Charlotte in May, Jimmy Johnson was leading with 2 laps to go, ran out of gas. Austin Dillon picked up the spoils and won. Yep. 2018, probably the most infamous one, spun and crashed out Eric Almirola to take the win in the 500 in 2018. 2020.
Which is complete and utter bullshit to do.
2020. Tyler Reddick arguably had the faster car than Austin, but again, with the controversial package, let's just say it was hard to pass at the expense of Reddick.
Yes.
Hence, Austin was able to and Texas is on the dub for that 3rd career win, and then his recent win, which is 2022 Daytona and 4th of July, the summer race, which was in August. Literally more than half the field crashed because of rain in turn 1 and 2.
Yep.
So to your point,
Mickey Mouse. So Mickey wins. There.
So to your point, Mickey Mouse.
I wish we could play the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song, but we can't because of copyright.
That's a good show, by the way. But
it's a classic.
You know what else is a classic?
What?
NASCAR, any NASCAR race from the archive. Especially, you know how I mentioned Kyle Busch winning that 1 points pain race in Richmond in 2012? He also won the 2012 Budweiser Shootout, which is an instant classic, which that was the race that actually got me fully hooked into NASCAR in the first place. And since that
Wait,
night,
so
I
was
watched
that
the
Richie
whole race.
race?
From the pre-race ceremonies to the post-race show. I've watched the whole thing. And since then, been a diehard NASCAR fan ever since. Now, y'all may know that I post a lot
So
of Formula One content. I also am a huge diehard fan of NASCAR. Both F1 and NASCAR, for me, I love them both equally. So, for those who have known me for a long time, you may know or remember that I'm a NASCAR fan, a huge NASCAR fan, which I still am. Simultaneously, I'm also a big diehard F1 fan too. So, don't get it twisted. I'm still a NASCAR fan, huge NASCAR fan to this day, and that won't ever change. 5 years ago, I tried something new. And let's just say it's equal with NASCAR, for me at least. Speaking of which, Jessica, you recently got into F1 because of myself. Yes?
yeah, yes, I did.
Can you explain how you got into Formula One?
So when I met you and you started showing my father some of your videos while me and Bryce were off doing our own thing.
Pocono
And
2020.
what happened? Yeah, yeah, exactly. But what happened is like that's what got me into F1. I started going more into history. We watched Tuned, which is a banger. If you haven't seen Tuned, go watch it.
More
It's
so the
awesome.
first season, but still continue.
Then I started watching race highlights and started giving out quote unquote punishments to any driver who would finish runner up in the season. I also like around 2022 is when the punishments really started to go full out.
When did it start?
It started around like July 2022 is like right around that time when it started.
So literally 2 years ago.
But like 2 years ago is when we started the whole punishment thing.
That was when you and Bryce first started talking, right?
Yeah, I started talking to Bryce.
Fast forward the clock 1 year later, I came into your life.
Yep.
A lot of people have come and gone in the sport throughout my years going to NASCAR races, and of all the people I still keep in contact with to this day, it's not only you, Jessica, but also Bryce as well. And somebody else. I'm trying to remember who that person's name was.
It's not Brandon.
No, it's not Brandon, because he and I rarely talk these days. He and I actually agreed for him to be in one of my podcast sessions one day. He's yet to get back to me on that. But then again, he is a busy person like all of us. So can't say that I'm gonna blame him.
I wasn't talking about that
Eventually we'll get
Brandon.
him on, but I don't know when. I don't know when. So work with me. Though speaking of
I
NASCAR
was thinking
races,
Brandon Panetto.
that was the one I was referring to. Jessica, you've been to your first NASCAR race since 2015, which was Dover.
Yes.
Second Dover race that Kevin
It was
Harvick won.
yes.
The
Like
last race
Harvick was in a
Cup
must-win
level.
situation. Yeah, exactly. What happened is that I went down with one of my elks in Manville Hillsborough elks, and we took a big coach bus. We had to get up at like 4 a.m. in the morning, which is probably a no-no for you, right?
4 a.m.
Yep,
My sleeping
4
schedule is
a.m.
messed up, so it varies. But carry on.
Just remember, I was 9 years old. And I was just gonna, just like later in December, I would move into my current home where I currently live. And then we went down to Dover. And then I was really cold, and then I got this Dale Jr. jacket that I still have to this day. And yes, it still fits me. Because it was big when I got it. I'm a 9-year-old. I'm a 9-year-old kid. And then we had the scanners, and then they were going, and I was going, whoop, there goes profanity. Whoop, there goes another one. Whoop, there it goes. Because, like, the radio things that you get at the track are uncensored.
Because it's not like radioactive, those videos that you watch at home, where you censor it out.
Yeah, or they censor it out big time.
But when you listen to the
They
radio,
censor it out big
it's
time.
uncensored. Though,
And
can
I
you
didn't
elaborate on
read
the race
drivers much
itself?
like the first
What
time
you
around.
remember?
The race is pretty strong, but the only thing that really happened was, unfortunately, current Xfinity Series driver Jeb Burton, who was in his rookie year in Cup, he unfortunately hit the wall on like laps 5 or 6. I don't remember it a lot. And Dale Jr. ran this Plenty scheme, which Nationwide, his sponsor at the time, was a part of the Plenty program in 2015. He was trying to beat Jamie McMurray to get to the round of 12. Although he probably should have won Talladega, but that's another story for another time. And then Harvick was in a must-win situation. He just went out and he just dominated the race. He led like over like I don't know how many laps he led, but it was a lot.
You led 355 out of 400.
It would be pretty boring for some, but this is my first race. Like, what do you expect?
The driver who led the second most laps was Matt Kenseth, who finished 7th after starting from pole position. And the driver who led the third most was second place Kyle Busch, leading 19 laps out front.
He started on pole. Like Matt Kenseth started on pole, but because qualifying got rained out because of a hurricane.
And Kevin Harvick was 15th at the start, first at the line. And you said
and he got his way to the round of 12
situation to get past the round of 12, to get into the round of 12, to beat.
No, he was trying to beat Jamie McMurray.
He did.
But it was like very close, but he did. But McMurray couldn't make it past the round of 16.
Because Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished.
Jimmy Johnson, surprisingly. Exactly. And Dale Earnhardt, and what's his name? Like, hang on. It was Jimmy Johnson. He had trouble and he was eliminated around of 16. I bet you that makes Bryce pretty angry.
We actually talked about it in the moment, the following 2 days after the race, when it happened. Now that you bring that up.
Oh boy. It was probably
But
lots
at least
of
he
yelling.
won his 7th 1 year later.
Exactly. And as for Harvick's fate, he would make it to the round of 12 where whoa, that's a little too much. He made it all the way to the championship 4, but unfortunately he finished second in the standings. Kyle Busch, who missed like half the season because of an injury.
Second in the standings, second in the race itself. And Kyle Busch,
exactly.
who, like you said, missed the first half, vast majority of the first half because of a leg injury, which Bryce and I touched on this subject on the 3rd episode. So if y'all are interested to hear more about this subject, more so with Bryce's take, head over to episode 3 of this podcast station for more information on that. Again, more so with Bryce's point of view. But what is your point of view of Kyle Busch's 2015 season? And is he deserving of the 2015 title? I've heard from Bryce. I want to hear from you now.
Well, I thought Kyle Busch was going to be like out for the season, because sometimes, especially with like injuries like Robert Wickens in Pocono 2018 in the IndyCar, he was out of his ride for the rest of the year, and he has since bounced back. He also was paralyzed in the wreck as well, and it was I think it was either his left foot and right leg was injured. He got hurt in that because of that. And thank God they made safety changes to that, because that was extremely hard impact. Like you see, he was getting out and then he went down. And I'm thinking, but they're still entering the 54 car in the Xfinity Series. Like, why haven't they withdrawn that? Like if they can't find a driver with like sponsorship or anything like that, like what the fuck's the point? Like, how are they gonna be able to like race it for the Owners' Championship in the Xfinity Series? Are they going to get beat out by Chris Buescher? Are they going to be beat out by Chase Elliott? Are they going to be beat out by, or are they just going to have like Daniel Suarez come in, even though he was a rookie in his own ride? Like, what the heck's the point then? But what I'm saying is like, I don't think he deserved the championship, because like he was granted a waiver, top 30, win a bunch of races.
You say he didn't deserve the championship?
No way.
Explain yourself.
Although Matt Kenseth was acting like a little bitch and took out Logano, which I actually despised Logano when I was younger. Oh God, I do not want to go back to those days. Oh my God, yes. And when he took out Matt Kenseth, I started cheering.
Like every vast majority of the fan base at the time.
It was so good.
It was
like I could not stop cheering.
I was wide-eyed when that happened. Basically, my jaw dropped to the floor.
I wonder what Bryce was like.
But at least that was a kind of a blessing in itself because Jeff Gordon was about to go winless up by that point. So had that not happened, Logano would have won and Gordon would have went winless in his farewell tour. So when that happened, Gordon
Now
took
that's
the
sad.
claps and won for the 93rd time in his career, his only win in 2015.
And his last win ever.
93rd and last. That win saved him into the final round, which it did, en route to a 6th place finish in the Homestead race and 3rd place in the standings. A solid sign-off for a NASCAR legend. An iconic NASCAR legend at that.
And for young kids, it's the end of an era. Because a lot of those young kids probably liked Jeff Gordon as kids.
Myself included. Even though I was more of a Dale Earnhardt Jr. person, Jeff Gordon was also among those. At first,
when Dale Jr. retired, I thought that Jeffrey Earnhardt was going to take over
win it, but simultaneously looking back at it now, Kyle Busch, he deserved it. He deserved it in my view. And why I say that?
Came through a lot of adversity.
Basically, what Bryce said what Bryce said in episode 3, he pretty much sums up exactly what it is, what I'm thinking of to say, but it would be kind of pointless to say because again, Bryce already said it in the 3rd episode of this podcast regarding this controversial subject. But Jessica, what were you saying?
What I'm saying is he got a waiver, top 30, and wins a bunch of races, gets in the playoffs, and wins the cup. He didn't even start all of the races. Take this for example in IndyCar. If IndyCar had playoffs, say Joseph Newgarden was out half the season because of an injury. He went had a mountain biking injury, and he was out for the first couple of races of the IndyCar season. Would IndyCar give him a waiver? Oh.
And IndyCar doesn't.
And yeah, Harvick deserves a second title. Yeah, even though IndyCar doesn't have a chase, exactly. So but in points contention, yeah, exactly. But points contention, if you miss races, you're out of the points contention for good in IndyCar and F1 and multiple other racing series.
I can see where you're coming from, but what I say again, Bryce summed up exactly what it is that my point was, or my point is on this subject. Because in my humble opinion, looking back at it now at least, Kyle Busch is deserving of the 2015 championship. Again, it's in the 3rd episode of the podcast station. I know I keep sugarcoating that. Again, though, Jessica, I agree with your point. Simultaneously, though, Kyle Busch still deserves the 2015 title regardless. Despite winning, 3 races in the regular season? No, 4. Sears Point, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Indianapolis. Consistency is key. And with this consistency, makes the chase, makes round to round, eventually finds himself in the Final 4, and wins. Beats out Kevin Harvick, the defending champion, Marshall Jr. in a resurgence of his Cup Series career, and Jeff Gordon looking to book in his career on a high note. And Kyle beat them all. Despite the
Harvick would have
in the beginning of the season. That was basic. It's like I said in episode 3. The 2015 season, regarding Kyle Busch's point of view, was basically Days of Thunder in real life. Another movie that's a banger, by the way. If you haven't seen that, spoilers. And it's a good watch. So, did you see Days of Thunder, by the way?
I have, yeah.
Like with Turbo, can you explain your point of view on the Days of Thunder film?
Like, it's really cool to like see like it was like done in the rise of NASCAR in the 90s. And then there's this one scene that I wasn't really allowed to like really like see when I was younger, is the police officer who is actually a bleep. I can't
I
say
know
it
you're talking
because
about. I know what scene you're talking about.
yeah, I
It's
my
when they
mom
get
told
pulled
me to
over.
cover my eyes for that.
It's when they had gotten pulled over by the police. They told them up
But it's
against the
actually
wall,
something else.
and then yeah, essentially, I know what scene you're referring to. Yep. But outside of that
And
scene,
then they
what
were
about the
racing.
racing aspect?
I liked how like Hendrick Motorsports really got involved with the
Project
movie. They provided cars. Yeah. And actual real life sponsorships came for Kyle Petty.
and Richard and Daryl.
Like like the Super Blow scheme, like there's this one where he takes out the winner. That's exactly what Hamlin would do to Blaney.
Or anyone for that matter, reminiscent of 2017 in March, in the fall of that year when he spun Chase Elliott. Sorry to bring it up.
And I know that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman actually dated. Is that right?
I believe so. I'm not too familiar with that, but I know
They
Tom
did like
Cruise for
4
a
films
fact played
together.
Cole Trickle. I know that for a fact. If there's any Tom Cruise movies that I've seen or heard of, as far as Top Gun or The Last Samurai, Days of Thunder is where it's at. No ifs, ands, or buts.
And I think they had Days of Thunder Rise and they renamed all of like the Kings Island, like Kings, like ones like with Days of Thunder rides at like their theme parks in the 90s. That's when Paramount bought into like Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Canada's Wonderland, all the theme parks. You knew it's not a movie without like it's building in theme parks.
Exactly. There was even it was so popular. There was even a video game based off the movie, more so for the and for those who have been around at the time. Y'all remember the Nintendo Entertainment System or the NES or NES for short? They made a video game. Days of Thunder was released on that console at the time when the movie came out. So I may throw some a bit of nostalgia for those out there who have been around for that long. And yes, I may not play the game, but I've seen footage of the gameplay. It's well, for its time, playable, but not so playable at the same time. But still, some to add into the collection at some point whenever y'all get the chance. And especially for those who collect old school games from those days. And for those, especially if y'all are racing fans, pick that up and give that a shot. If you're willing to, that is, because I've heard from many that it's not one of the greatest. But if you ask me, looking at the gameplay footage, it's actually not that bad. It just takes a while to get used to the controls and handling and the mechanics and whatnot. That's another thing Bryce and I got to touch on when we touch on more video games on the racing genre one day. Now that I come to think about it and mention that game. Remember how we mentioned earlier the 2024 Atlanta race? We're going to finish
Yes.
with the Cars 1 reenactment.
Yeah.
Well, Cars 1 in real life. Bryce and I, we reviewed the Cars franchise a while ago. I want to hear from you now. Thoughts and opinions and comments on all three of the Cars films.
Cars, iconic. My favorite movie of all time. Cars 2 sucked a whole lot of ass. It is so bad. They put way too much and a lot of screen time on Mater. McQueen is supposed to be the main character, god damn it. Also, oh god. it's a whole another rabbit hole, and it's just it's disgusting to think about Cars 2 because they have way too much spy shit. There's more boom, but there's lots of boom, 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 and lots of blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to go too into Cars 2. And after that movie's over, you're never gonna watch it again. And Cars 3 is okay. I mean, they had trying to get females in
Okay.
the sport, but
It's awesome. Well, for me at least, but carry on.
I mean, they want to get females in the sport in Cars 3, so that's the perfect way to do it.
And they did that with Cruz Ramirez. Most notably, Cruz Ramirez in that sense. Do you remember that one scene
Exactly.
in
They
Cars 3 at
wanted
the
to get
end
women in
where the
NASCAR.
Lightning came down pit road in the Florida 500, which is basically the Daytona 500 in real life, but still, the Florida 500
Yeah.
comes down pit road at the beginning stages, calls up Ramirez. They were about to change the tires and get all the adjustments right and clean his eyes, or in real life terms,
Windshield.
But instead of McQueen stops them in their tracks, turns to Ramirez, and they get Ramirez ready instead. We had this discussion before. Can you explain for those who might be confused with that scene? I have Jessica here to back me up. Because that actually, what y'all seen with in that particular scene has actually happened before in real life on the NASCAR spectrum. So Jessica here can back me up. In other words, Jessica, can you explain to the listeners what I'm trying to say right now?
Okay. So this actually has happened numerous times in NASCAR, whether a driver is sick or they're on baby watch, or their wife or girlfriend's having a baby, or in case like illness or stuff like that, they do have a relief driver on standby just in case when that happens. And this also happened for sponsorship reasons in 2007 with Denny Hamlin jumping in for Eric Almirola, who was leading the race. But Almirola was credited the win. But enough of this crap. So say like someone has like climbs out. So they say also this happened with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2004
Or at
or
Loudon,
2005.
2004, Loudon.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, because Dale Jr. had like really bad burns and he had to get out like at the first caution. And the first caution came, and then Dale got out, and MTJ and stage winner MTJ got in. So what they have to do is Dale has to unstrap everything when he's getting in, before he gets out of the car. They have to shut the engine off. And then they're gonna have the driver ready to go, get everything set up. And what happened here is they're gonna pull him out of they're gonna either like he's gonna get on his own, pull, or they have to do it fast. They have to pull him out of the car, and they had to get MTJ in. They had to make sure that everything is strapped in, and they had to make sure that the radio's working. They had to make sure that everything is plugged into the system, and then to make sure the belts are extremely tight. And also make sure everything at the cool system would be hooked up. So, and that you could hear, and the earplugs are working that they wear on in their ears so that they can hear what's going on. And then they have to get everything like all said and done. And then it could take like 20 seconds. They do practice it a lot, especially with Denny Hamlin in 2013. He had to jump out of the roof hatch, and he had to come down on a step stool, and then they had to close the hatch when Brian Vickers got in the car because of Denny Hamlin's back injury he had in 2013.
That was 2013.
And then
I'm thinking of Martinsville in the spring when that happened. Either Brian Vickers or Mark Martin took over for him. One of those two.
I know Talladega was Brian Vickers.
2014 that. No, it can't be 2014 because he won that race. 2013. You're right.
I said 2013.
But carry on. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And then like maybe the crew will fire it up, and then and then he or she has to put the gloves on, make sure they're comfortable in there, and then boom, they're off. That's a driver change. And then they can come back to change tires and take fuel if needed. Yeah, that's a driver change.
You know why they turn
True.
off the engine, right? To not waste the fuel,
Yeah,
not burn fuel.
exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That was not the only time, because I can also remember in 1999, it was the Trans-South 400. It was the first Darlington race in 1999. I should know because I watched the full length of this race a while ago. I remember Bobby Labonte came down pit road. He got out of the car because of an injury or something going on with him because he was unwell. Again, something was going on with him, and they had Matt Kenseth take over for him the rest of the way. Oh, and then
But
it
he
got rained
is
out.
a Roush driver. But he's a Roush driver. Why is he doing this for
Yeah,
Joe
funny
Gibbs?
enough, Matt Kenseth before 2013, he went over to Gibbs full time. He drove the 18 ride in 1999 in Winston Cup before going over to the 20 ride in 2013. 1999 was
Yeah,
Matt
but he was
Kenseth's
at Roush.
first gig in JGR equipment. Darlington in the spring of 1999. Fun fact if y'all didn't know that. But then again,
But
it was
he
in the
also
18 ride
did
rather
a
than the
ride
20.
with Bill Elliott.
What?
He did he helped out Bill Elliott when I think his grandmother passed away.
Or someone in the family passed. Hence, Matt Kenseth drove for him at the second Dover race in 1998. I forget what place he finished, but that happened.
It can happen. It can happen to anybody.
Now, we touched on Cars 1. You said all three Cars movies in short. Can you elaborate a little more, starting with the first one?
So
Like, review the whole movie is
it's
what I'm saying. Or movies, since
okay.
it's two more that follow up.
Oh, okay. Okay, so like the opening scene, and there's also a reference to it in Kick Buttowski. They used inspiration from the opening scene for when Kick's gonna go-kart racing.
Titled Cart to Cart. I think that's the name of the episode in that sense,
It is called Cart to Cart. Carl Edwards is in it.
which he is.
And we just watched that recently.
Yeah, because of me.
Like a lot of it just doesn't make any sense. Like Cars 1 is more realistic because Kick Buttowski, some of the go-kart things with like old carts and getting new carts and a rich kid coming in. That's like Ty Gibbs or Lance Stroll investing in your track.
Exactly. Or even though he was dog poo-poo, Nicholas Latifi. If y'all remember Nicholas Latifi, for those F1 fans out there, racing F1 for a little bit from 2020 to 2022, and then got sacked.
He's
Instead
now
of
working
Logan
in
Sargent.
business.
What?
Now he's working in business.
Which he
Latifi.
is. I remember he had an Instagram post about that. Taking a break from racing and focusing more on the business side. I wonder how that's going for him. But regarding Cars 1, continue with the movie review in your words and your point of view.
Like the opening scene gives me chills to this very day. When McQueen revs his engine, it's a work of art, ready to get started. And it's just so gorgeous. He looks awesome. He doesn't look like a rookie at all. He looks like a vet out there having a great time. But it's not. It's a rookie. Do you see Carson Hocevar acting and like this? Absolutely not. Is he cocky? Kinda, yeah. And then we have Chick Hicks, who's the Denny Hamlin of this. And he's a dirty player. He causes a big one, and he made McQueen fly. Like, not literally fly. Not literally, like, Chick just randomly gave McQueen a Red Bull and say, here, it gives you wings. And he flew.
When that big wreck happened.
Oh boy. Then McQueen decides to not pit for tires. And that is not a good idea at all. Not a good idea.
Either. So that's even more of a shame.
Yeah. And then he has 2 tires blow on the last lap. It become a three-way
Both of them, yeah.
tie. It was a three-way tie, which will never happen in real life.
Yes, it did. You've seen it with your own eyes.
What the hell was I thinking? Whoops. My bad.
That's
Whew.
good.
Let's carry on with this, shall we?
The voice is yours. The mic is yours.
So what happens is there's going to be a three-way tie in California in 1 week. And then McQueen has to go deal with his sponsors like every other driver would. And there's another famous line. Like, here's the thing. Race cars don't need headlights because the track is always lit. Yeah, well, so is my brother, but he still needs headlights. And yes, there are a bunch of adult jokes in here.
Particularly that one with Mia and Tia when Lighten is about to get in victory lane.
But that's not going to happen.
But carry on.
And then they're trying to get to California. They want to beat Chick Hicks there. And then Mac would drive nonstop to California, which is never going to happen in real life with a hauler driver. Because hauler drivers, they usually have two drivers that switch out. And then there's this gang of cars that are lightly Brit, that have very bright colors. They look like something out of Fast and Furious.
The Fast and the Car, yes, you could say.
Hey, that's what CinemaSins said. Come on.
And your point is?
Like, stop copying shit you see on the internet.
Thought I'd bring that
Jeez.
up. But carry on.
And then when they're playing games with Mac, McQueen would fall out of the trailer, get on a busy highway, which is something that you'll probably never do in a stock car because it's not legal to drive them on roads because they're far too low to safely drive on public roads. They are meant for a racetrack, not a major highway. And then McQueen's trying to beat the train. He's getting off this turn thinking, oh, it's Mac, but it's not. And like, he's trying to beat a train. It's a beat the train scene that's only in this movie and no movies before it. But it's a Peterbilt truck that he ran into. Then he comes speeding down towards Radiator Springs, and the sheriff would try to catch him. He literally destroys the town, and the world is like, where is he? Even Dale Earnhardt Jr. wants to know where he is.
Literally, because Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in the movie.
Yes, there's somebody else famous that you'll see later on. But then we meet Mater. Who is very much reminiscent of a Southern stereotype. In his trial, he is forced to repave that road. He has to repave the entire road. If it does it right, it takes about 5 days. That's when he has to get to California. He's just really wanting to go to California. But Doc Hudson says, he ain't buying that shit. I'm telling you that right now. Mater takes the boot off. He thinks they lowered his gas tank so that he couldn't escape. And then he repaves the road. His sticker gets all dirty. And then there was another thing about Chick getting the Dynaco sponsorship, which will probably never happen in real life. And then he tries getting a 5-day job in 10 minutes. Like, that's not okay. And it's like the road's just bad. The Queen and Doc challenges to a race on Willie's Butte, who has more character than Sochi on an F1 track. And it's a dirt track. We don't race dirt tracks anymore. McQueen tries to drift, and then he falls into the cactus, scrape up all the stuff that he's done, and he's wrecked the night before. And then by paving the road, he does a good job. In the time that he is off, he's basically practicing the drift. And we get this another iconic phrase, turn right to go left. He tried doing that, falls into the cactus. Again, he does some more paving, and Sally, his eventual girlfriend, would want him to come stay at the at the Cozy Cone Motel instead of being at the impound. They invite him to stay. And then they go tractor tipping, which is super iconic.
With Mater.
With Mater. They almost got chased down by
Frank.
a harvester. By Frank, a harvester. And then McQueen would stay at the motel and would probably get a little love things with Sally.
And then Mater's infamous backwards driving lesson.
Driving. Yikes. He doesn't need to watch where he's going. He just needs to know where he's been.
Rearview mirrors do the trick.
They did an ET move as well. With him jumping over the moon. Carry on is then McQueen and Sally take a drive to the Wheelwell Motel, which used to be a popular stop on the Mother Road. The interstate, the reason why that Radiator Springs gets no visitors is because of the interstate that travels down through there. And it's like killed off a lot of small businesses. Yeah, and then he would get back to that, and you also find out that Doc Hudson was not just a doctor in the middle of nowhere. He was a former Piston Cup racer.
And champion.
On a dirt track. And champion on a dirt track. And he won a lot on the dirt track.
Dirt track goat, if you will.
Exactly. He is a dirt track goat. And I believe it for a fact.
3-time Piston Cup champion. But carry on.
And then Doc tells him to get out. He wants to try some of the tricks. He wants to try the tricks, but Doc's like, nope, not doing it. And then oh boy. Then they took a drive. And then they saw that, oh boy. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack here, folks. So bear with me. So they basically, like, when the tractors come back, he sees Doc put on his old racing tires on, and he shows the drift for the first time, which amazes McQueen. Doc said, like, we're the same. And then you're like, no, you're not. And then McQueen would finish the road, but he's not ready to leave just yet. He gets army stuff. He gets fuel from a Volkswagen bus voiced by the late great George Carlin. He is iconic.
His soul.
Exactly. And by the way, before we go any further, Doc Hudson was voiced by Paul Newman. He loved racing more than you can imagine.
And was a racer.
He's done some himself. He almost won Le Mans, whether or not for a questionable entry from the Wilmington brothers.
Close, but
Doc
came up short.
Right. Doc was angry about McQueen, like he's now friends with everybody in Radiator Springs. Customers. As a new customer in years. He gets a new paint job. He gets some other cool snazzy stuff. New tires. He looked absolutely amazing. He looks absolutely amazing in that design. Wish they used it more often. Doc would call the media to tell him where McQueen's location is. They would find him and escort them to California. But McQueen didn't get a proper chance to say goodbye to everyone in the town. So, and now here it is. The actual race. What they called Race of the Century. They shut the entire place down. Like this country would never shut down or almost shut down for a NASCAR race. Never, ever, ever, ever. Especially with me. Because I work Sundays. It's the King's last race. He's going to be retiring after that race. Then it's showtime. McQueen first struggles to stay focused. Because he's still his mind is still in Radiator Springs. He spins out. Doc Hudson would be the crew chief.
The biggest bombshell, at least, well, one of the biggest bombshells is that, but there's a there's a bigger bomb. Well, at least for me, the bigger bombshell that Jessica will explain later. But carry on.
So they called them the Fabulous Hudson Hornet, and nobody has seen the racing legend in over 50 years. And then Guido is fighting with pit crew members, but they'll get his chance because Chick Hicks, like he always does, is playing dirty. He blows McQueen's tire, but then what happens is the most iconic piece of memorabilia in history was a pit stop. And you know what we say to that? Take that, McLaren. Because if we were to pull a stopwatch out, it wouldn't be faster than McLaren at all. It's like F1 pit stop. Then we head in the last lap, and like King looks to like Chick looks to win the whole thing. Pulls, then he pulls away, and then he looks like he pulls away, but McQueen.
You're forgetting McQueen's initial drift.
He did the drift. He did the drift. You think he's going to win the Piston Cup? We're not done yet. Chick would turn the King and do a big rollover. Very reminiscent of Richard Petty's crash. His voice actor in the Southern Side. And also 1970
also,
at Darlington, which
Leslie Wallace played from Talladega in 1993. That too.
And I don't know what Ernie Irvin would say about that one. McQueen would slam on the brakes, which led Chick to win the race, which he should be disqualified for dirty driving.
So in that sense, Strip Brothers won the championship.
Exactly. Although McQueen finished third in the standings, like Denny Hamlin would finish third in the standings in his rookie year.
Coincidentally enough.
Chick would win the title, but everyone's not happy with it. Dynaco does not want to deal with him. They don't want a dirty driver on their team. They really don't want a dirty driver on their team. They asked, like Tex would ask McQueen to don the colors, but he declines it. But you know what I would do? I'd sign it. I'd sign that shit right away. Put me in the Dynaco colors, baby. Mater, but the Rust-eze guys gave McQueen his big break, and he only just lets Mater ride in their helicopter because Mater always wanted to ride in a fancy helicopter.
And he got his way.
And
then the biggest bombshell happened. At least to me, it's the biggest.
Oh God! So
but
what
for
happened?
Good reasons.
Michael Schumacher. Exactly. For all you F1 fans out there, this scene's for you. Michael Schumacher,
the GOAT himself,
would be in this movie.
I got a bit too excited, but yes. The GOAT himself.
It's exciting to see it. And eventually a lot of Ferrari fans in movie theaters went nuts.
Sorry to cut you off, but when I watched this movie years ago, even in theaters, believe it or not, in the theaters when it came out, I didn't even know that was Michael Schumacher. I didn't even know. Do you want to know how long
it took me to realize?
Do you want to know how long it took me to realize that was Michael Schumacher? Do you want to know how long that took?
Yeah. How long?
The movie came out in 2006. So
exactly.
I'm doing the math correctly. 10, 11, 12, 13 years to figure that out.
Holy shit. Like who do you think it was at first?
Some Ferrari dude. I don't know. Someone who works at Ferrari or races for Ferrari, but someone other than Michael Schumacher, that's for damn sure.
You thought but remember, in the green car, we already made our things, would be his teammate in 2006, Felipe Massa.
And the other Rubens Barrichello on the other side. That's only a theory.
On the other side. It's a theory. It's a theory, but not here. And they would probably be giggling, and Luigi and Guido pass out, and they would probably be giggling at that.
Funny enough, Michael Schumacher, when he was in that Ferrari sports car in that scene, it was actually 2006 was his last year in Ferrari colors. 7-win season, but came up just short of the title. Second place in the standings, losing out by 13 points to Fernando Alonso.
15
could have
points
won the championship
to the
had the engine not let go in Suzuka, and had he not had that puncture in the season finale in Brazil. Maybe
That would be
had those
Lewis
factors never
Hamilton in
happened,
2025. Chasing
Schumacher,
eight. He would have
eight-time
won eight.
champion, but that's just me. But
And
still,
then
though, Fernando
they
Fernando
refilled
deserves the
radiator
'06
springs.
title, so can't complain. Can't complain. They both did a Titanic scrap all throughout the 2006 season. Fernando and Michael. Both of them won 7 races. Both of them. But in the end,
Fernando is a hot
showed
shot.
up, did the job, finished in the points, won the championship. But going Cars 1, well, Fernando was in Cars 2 and 3, but internationally in his home country. But back to Cars. That was pretty much the end of that was pretty much it. Aside from the ending scene where McQueen and Sadler are at the Wheelwell Hotel, still abandoned, but in the next scene, in the next film, it's going to be like brand new in the opening first in the beginning phase of Cars 2, but at the end of Cars 1, the place was still abandoned. McQueen and Sally are chilling.
And then
They were about to kiss, and then enter Maida, who sings that infamous song.
can I sing it or no?
Sing it.
Queen and Sally, parked beneath the trailer. KISS ING.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect timing. And then
film.
before the credits, the last 2 lines where Sally said, "So Sicker's last one to flows buys." McQueen says in response, "Nah, nah, nah. Why don't we just take a drive?"
No.
And then Sally said, "Nah." Takes off.
Nah.
And then Light McQueen
Oh,
says, "Yeah." Ka-chow, and takes off as well. And then
In hot pursuit.
and then the next scene, they have them going on the twists and turns of Tailfin Pass. And then Maida still inside the Dinoco helicopter going through the shot. And then that's it. Well, there was some
And, like, what happens now?
but that's pretty much the end of the film.
I know.
Now we get to the
But what
second
happens
scene.
now is that somebody builds a Walmart. No, what I'm saying is somebody builds a Walmart followed by a McDonald's and turns to every other place in the United States.
Whoa. I don't know what to say about that.
No, what I'm saying is, like, they could transform, like, they could, like, build a Walmart and they could build a McDonald's and they could turn to every other place in the United States. I'm not going to fully review Cars 2 because it's a pain in the ass. Because, like, in every town in the U.S., there's, like, a Walmart or a McDonald's, right?
Wait a minute. There was one other scene that you forgot to mention in Cars 1. It's that scene where Lyden tried to get away from that statue.
Vader's hood that.
No, not that. It's the one where McQueen ripped up, not ripped up, but removed Stanley from the statue of Stanley from his
Exactly.
place.
That's when I said
That's
they were
the
tearing
jump
through
scare.
the town. That's what I said they were doing that. That's a jump scare. And it probably scared many of y'all as kids, including myself.
So you would too? Damn. I guess I'm not the only one.
Yes. If you know, you know.
And also those 2 that try to get to where I don't know who they are, but it's those 2 vans. One was purple, the other one was green, trying to get someplace.
Minnie and Van. They were also in the film as well.
One of the others suggested a GPS, but the other insisted. And at the very end of the credits, they still trying to get to their destination.
And they're broken down.
Yes. And well, I'm not going to get too much into context, but they broke down and we haven't heard from them since. And that's the end of Cars 1. On to the sequel then.
Cars 2, I'm not going to fully talk about because it's terrible.
Just explain.
I just don't like
explain what you know or what you remember.
Oh my god. So, like,
we see what? We're getting into it. Review the whole thing. Scratch that. I changed my mind.
Oh god. Oh god. Don't make me suffer.
Well, welcome to the podcast. It's called Turn 4 Sparks Controversy for a reason.
Oh God. So we see Finn McMissile on the run from a bunch of bad guys. They're called lemons
Yes,
for some reason.
lemons.
They're like the lemons are just absolutely terrible, and they deserved to be punished. But we'll get to that later. So he just follows him up the ramp. He's like a James Bond secret agent. It's very reminiscent of James Bond.
You know what else is reminiscent? When Lightning said at the beginning of at the beginning of Cars 2, where he tells me that I can handle anything, like in that one scene in Cars 1,
Yeah,
that was
like they
something.
want to have a fun summer.
An off season, because
Being
McQueen,
off.
I'm pretty sure, was in the off season. The season was just ended in the
Yes.
spectrum.
Yeah, he won a fourth. He won a fourth
Fourth.
championship.
He won a fourth when he was at his game, at his peak. Sadly, no Piston Cup races in the second film, which I was sad about, but carry on.
So like there was like this billionaire named Miles Axelrod who is hosting like basically an IROC if they have the world champions in there. Sir Lewis, are you interested in that? I hope you are.
What Jessica is trying to say is there's this World Grand Prix thing with all the other, aside from Lightning McQueen and the Piston Cup spectrum, other other champions in their respective forms of motorsport. Lewis Hamilton was one of them.
Yes.
Lewis Hamilton, who was at the time racing for McLaren.
Exactly.
Internationally, Sebastian Vettel, who was racing for Red Bull at the time, who was at his absolute prime, and Fernando Alonso at the time. So that's 3 F1 drivers. Well, depending on which which country. Sebastian Vettel in German, Fernando Alonso in Spanish, Lewis Hamilton in English.
And so was Jeff Gordon.
In the NASCAR spectrum, yes. As Jeff Corvette.
Yes. He's iconic. And then what happened is they're trying to and then Mater accidentally calls into the show and it gets McQueen into the World Grand Prix. And they had to get to a party in Japan. Like it's like a big, it's like a big thing.
Steve.
And they had Finn. And then we had Finn and Holly. And then they were trying to figure out some oil thing with the lemons as Mater goes on and eats wasabi. Or as he calls it pistachio ice cream. They think that Mater is dating Holly. Shiftwell. They don't believe him at all. And then they killed the guy in disguise. And then it's race time. We only get to see a little bit of the race because they had to do all the spy stuff.
Bryce and I went over this too, but again, I want to hear your stances on this. They cut from the racing scene and then to the spy scene, then back to the racing, and then back to the spies, and then back to the racing, back to the spies.
You get confusing after a while.
What was it? I think it was episode 7, I believe it was. It's 2 different movies.
Yes.
In one, constantly interrupting each other.
So it's like James Bond versus racing. It's like, is it like, what the heck are we doing? Racing or ping pong?
Racing or spy thriller. I'm in it for the racing, man.
Me too. And then they have this Italian car named Francesco bragging on and on about how good he is when he clearly is not.
The Formula 1 car.
He's an F1 car. You know F1 cars are going to be faster than NASCARs.
That's a debate, but carry on.
Francesco would win the first race because of Mater blabbering into his radio.
McQueen's radio.
Like, if you're going to blabber on about something, his radio, if you want to blabber on about something, then
turn it off.
Be my guest. Like, turn it off. Like, unplug your headset. Come on. Come on. It's not that hard. All you gotta do is just take the plug and just unplug it and then blabber on.
McQueen just basically he threw in the towel and just basically gave Francesco a gift. And a gift by accident, you could say.
Exactly. That would make Francesco extremely happy.
And more braggy than ever.
Exactly. But this made
McQueen
him
pissed.
angry. McQueen triggered.
I would be. Would you?
Yeah, if I was a race car driver and then one of my friends just like blabbered in my radio, that's not right. Because they had to get Mater involved because he has the all-important device, which is actually not that important. Is that right? Is that device actually not important?
No, it's not.
Or is it still important? It's not. Exactly. The McQueen would Mater would try and head back to Radiator Springs, but like we have lots of boom boom booms and blah blah blahs as they head to Paris. Oh boy. God, it's giving me a headache every time I'm saying a lot of this stuff. Like, my goodness. I really don't want to talk about it, but we're on a podcast and we have to. Okay? Okay.
Motorsport's controversy for a reason.
Yep. Welcome to the podcast world, you could say.
You're forgetting one other moment in Cars 2. That one annoying moment that makes my ears bleed. Ugh. Well, back then it wasn't a problem, but now it's a problem.
You mean the bathroom scene?
Like a good neighbor, Mater is there.
Yeah. Come on. That's basically State Farm.
Yeah.
It's basically State Farm's jingle.
In a nutshell, but Cars 2's version of it. Now, back then I didn't mind it, but nowadays it's grade A cringe. Seriously.
Like, would you seriously don't want to listen to that?
There's so many things that make you question with Cars 2. You remember that one scene in Cars 2 where Mater was in these different skins, such as a taco?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a disguise.
But my point being, there was actual tacos. In my mind, I'm thinking, so cars eat food now?
This doesn't make any sense.
With Cars 1, you question less because a lot of things made sense. With this one, you have 1,000 questions rattling through your mind. How does this work? How does that work? How do cars eat? How do cars drink? Because there is a scene where
there's alcohol in there.
Yes, because there was a scene where these lemons crash into a pub, and in one of the scenes, they show a glass of beer.
Cars drinking beer.
How
do cars drink beer?
At first, I didn't mind it, but now I laugh at that because how in the hell does this even work?
It's so weird knowing how is this society working?
And there was no straws either. So that's even more questionable.
Like, what in the actual
hell?
Exactly.
And how do they write too? Because you remember that note Mater left behind?
Yes. Why?
How do cars write?
Why?
And you remember that other scene where Finn McMissile said iPhone apps?
iPhone. Cars don't have iPhones.
So iPhones exist in the Cars universe then. Again, how? Again, with the first one, it's less questionable because a lot of things made sense. With this one, you have 1,001 questions rattling through your head because there's so much going on. More often than not, vast majority of them not making any sense.
Exactly.
But the Road Grand Prix stuff, they had it in Tokyo, Italy, and London. McQueen won Italy, though.
Yeah. Yes, that made Francesco very angry.
Simultaneously, there was a big wreck that happened behind them.
And Lewis and Jeff couldn't get there.
But they avoided the crash, though.
But they got stuck. They couldn't go anywhere.
Exactly, because it was so narrow and so tight, and it was on the bridge, too, when that crash took place.
On the casino bridge. Exactly. Yes.
Also, the voices who were up in the booth, Daryl Cartrip, who is Daryl Waltrip in real life, and also David Hobbs. I forget what his name was in the Cars universe, but David Hobbs as well. You may know him from the CBS days of the NASCAR Spectrum and the old days of the CBS NASCAR days from 1979 to 1994, 95. And
he's a former driver himself, right?
Formula One. Also for Speed Channel for Formula One. That too. Regarding David Hobbs. He was in there too.
Yeah.
He was in Lewis Hamilton in the Cars too. He was number 2. You may have noticed that.
They don't have a 3. In real life, he's number 3.
In 2011, at least, because that was his number.
I wonder.
2010, he was number 2. Hence the number 2. It's because the movie was.
That's around the time the movie was made.
Because the movie started production in 2010.
It was supposed to release. It was supposed to start. It was supposed to be released in 2012.
Cars 2?
Cars 2 was supposed to be released in 2012. Yeah.
They released it 1 year early then.
They released it a year early. Yep.
That makes sense why so many things don't make no sense because they rushed it.
Had they released it in 2012,
it possibly would have been so much.
They released it in 2012. It probably would have been. And it probably, but you know, another thing what happened is summer 2011. They had Transformers: Dark of the Moon, and I saw it like around like first Avenger, but that came out in July. It came out a lot later.
My point still being it was in theaters still simultaneously. But
yikes.
Needless to say, Cars 2 was a mess. We all thought Mater was gonna be blown out with that ticking time bomb on his thing.
I thought he was gonna blow up.
But he didn't, thank God.
If he did, that's pretty sad. And he got knighted by the queen. How do you get knighted by a queen?
Again, so many questions. So many questions. Probably because it made his heroism throughout the movie. The reason why I think there was so much Mater in Cars 2, Mater's tall tales was a thing at the time. That's probably why too much Mater was in the second Cars film.
Exactly.
And then they had one last race, which was in Radiator Springs. We don't know who won.
But clearly,
we don't know who won London either.
Because the credits. Who do you think won the Radiator Springs one?
Mater.
And McQueen.
And McQueen on the podium. Francesco in second.
Hey, you know, like for Cars 2, we should have them have punishments. What should Francesco do as a punishment for Italy?
I'm guessing with the rockets, with the spy thriller stuff, with the rocket attached to him.
Yeah. Oh God.
That was Cars 2.
Like, what is happening?
For that infamous line from in the London race. Where
what is happening?
Through Francesco, hence that infamous line. That one line sums up Cars 2. What is the happening? Hell is happening?
Exactly. Or big old WTF.
I don't know if this was true or not, but at the end of the film, I think Holly and Mater became boyfriend and girlfriend, I believe. I think.
Yes. How do cars date?
You know they date when you know Sally and McQueen date.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, so too can Mater and Holly. And that's the last time we've seen of Holly and Finn McMissile and all those spy nonsense. Again, not getting too much into the spy thriller stuff because one, don't make no sense. Two, uninterested. Three, only came for the racing scene. We got that, but not as much,
We only got a very small portion of it.
which is sad. Because again, I expected racing stuff.
And they also recasted film work as George Carlin passed away in 2008.
Paul Newman also passed in 08.
Yeah, but George Carlin, I think, was first.
I believe he was. And that's pretty much Cars 2. In short,
Cars 3.
but Cars 3 was so much better. So much better.
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
they
This
took
feels like
out
the
Cars 2
perfect
and it
Cars.
just went straight from Cars 1 to Cars 3, excluding Cars 2, as Cars 2 never existed. But saying that would be an understatement. And Jessica can back me up.
Cars 3 is way better than that horse that we went through, which is Cars 2, and it's a straight hellfire, and it can burn straight in hell. Take your copies of Cars 2 DVDs and light them on fire, because you're never going to see it again. Actually, don't try that at home, please. Especially in front of your kids that love the movie. I loved it as a kid, but now it's awful. And it also damaged Pixar's reputation, I think.
It kind of did. But what happened in Cars 3?
So Cars 3, we see McQueen is the main character again. Now a 7-time champion, still dominating the scene. That's Lewis Hamilton.
And Jimmy Johnson in the NASCAR spectrum.
And they had crashes that changed their thing forever.
McQueen, as we know in the LA race, the season finale, Jimmy Johnson in real life in Pocono 2017 in June. I was there to see that too. But carry on.
It's
What
it's
happened
the exact
before?
same thing.
What happened before that moment though with McQueen's crash? What happened before that?
McQueen is still winning. He's still doing things. He's still winning everything there is. He's now won 7 championships, the same amount as Jimmy Johnson, nonetheless.
And Strip Weathers, because Strip Weathers also won 7 championships.
Brothers, yeah.
Don't know Strip Weathers, Richard Petty, who had one line at the beginning of Cars 3. Just one line.
Like, come on. Give him some more lines, damn it.
Good comeback, Cal. That's it. That's the only line.
That's it.
But still, we got Piston Cup racing. I was so hyped
And
with that. And I was so happy with that. I was happy with McQueen winning. I was happy with Cal, I almost said Cal Naughton for a minute. I almost said Cal Weathers winning. I don't think Bobby Swift won though in the beginning scenes. He did not.
He didn't win, no.
Always the bridesmaid, but never the bride in that sense.
He's like Denny. He's like Chase Elliott before he won his first race, and Denny and Kyle Larson.
At Phoenix, in real life, it's Phoenix, but at some racetrack in Arizona,
some new kid is taking
Enter the Storm.
Jackson Storm.
Enter the Storm.
Oh, and do you know that Armie Hammer is now a pedophile now? His voice actor is now a pedophile.
I'm shaking my damn head over that, what I just heard.
Yeah, he's now doing bad things. That's why we don't see him anymore in the thing.
Good.
Yeah, it's just lots of crap, and there's lots of investigations going on about him. But we don't want to talk about that. This has gone on and on for way too long. We're not going to talk about his personal life.
Especially what you just mentioned. Less of that, more on the Cars 3 stuff, please.
Thank you. And then they say that Jackson Storm is part of the next generation of high-tech racers, unlike the veterans of yesterday. Yeah.
And the future of tomorrow, today.
Yes, exactly. It's like the Gen 7 car on steroids.
Pretty much.
But I have a real question. There are humans in there, how are they going to get in the damn car? Like what they normally do, they have the same ones that we have in the Gen 7 car, right?
Or they have some special door that they open and close, like in those sports cars.
Oh my God, yes. Exactly. It could happen. Yeah, because if you do type of stuff like that, what Army did, you're banned from the sport entirely. Or you're banned from NASCAR for life.
Exactly.
Or you're indefinitely suspended by NASCAR. So remember, kids, don't do what Army Hammer did.
Please don't. Otherwise, you'll face serious, and I mean serious consequences.
Don't pull an Army Hammer, kids. And then they have more generation cars. They have more new next generation cars than ever before. They got 6 more in the next race. And then they're dropping the veteran drivers for these higher, faster racers. Like, they're like younger too. And they're a bunch of toolboxes.
Did you just say 2 boxes?
No, toolboxes.
That's what did you say tool boxes?
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah, this is definitely getting an E on here. Sorry about that, folks. So, and then we get to the bad part, the crash.
The
We see
infamous
Daniel
card.
Suarez.
Name's Danny, bro.
Beforehand. I don't know
That's
why.
his
If I
only
said
line.
Danny Bro in front of him.
His only
No, he has
line.
another line. He has another line too. He does. The others, every one of the NASCAR Next Gens have 2. They have 2 lines apiece for each other.
But Suarez, that was his only line. His only line, unless he was one of the many drivers that was voicing over where Lightning McQueen was.
No. This was what
Exactly
they
my point.
congratulated. That's not no. That's his only like main line, but not
Exactly my
like
point.
all together.
You had Chase Elliott in there. You had Ryan Blaney in there. You had Bubba Wallace in there.
And yes, all 4 of them have signed my cover of Cars 3. All 4 of them.
I may not
Even
have
though
all
some of them
4,
got
but I do
confused.
own diecasts of all the drivers that was in Cars 3. Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, Chase Elliott. We have a ways of removing Cars 3 in their cast in their respective ways. Me with the diecast, well, with the real life NASCAR paint schemes. And you with the autographs, signatures on the Cars 3
I think Chase
Blu-ray
Elliott.
disc casing.
Yeah, the first one I got was Blaney in 2018. God damn it!
6 years ago.
I need loves. Oops, sorry. You're on the podcast, Mom. Hi. Thank you. Now, where were we? Oh, that's right. What I meant to say was, after the crash, McQueen's like wanting to was thinking on retiring. If you were in a bad crash like that Doc Hudson went through, would you retire?
Or Strip Brothers.
Or Strip Weathers, would you retire? But Strip Weathers was already going to retire.
No, I would keep going.
And then,
if I was still in my prime and that wreck like that happened to me, I'd keep going. I'm calling it quits when I decide to call it quits. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
That's McQueen's motto. And that's McQueen's motto, is he decides when he's done.
And that's exactly my motto. Yeah, it may not be motorsport, but it's in regards to the go-karting world, because I'm a go-kart racer and a sim racer. So again, I decide when I'm done. I decide when it's time to hang it up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But carry on.
You decide when you hang up the helmet. So, like you said, if McQueen wants to get faster than Jackson Storm, he has to train like him. But do you think he should be rebuilt from the ground up?
You mean from scratch?
Exactly.
You mean a full makeover, as in an overhaul?
Yes.
They shouldn't have done that, but it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same. So they packed the whole gang up to Florida at the Rusty's Racing Center, which looks a lot like an F1 HQ or Hendrix HQ.
Or any big motorsport headquarters for that matter.
Even 2311's new race shop, too. So they get there, and Rusty and Dusty sold Rusty's to a billionaire named Sterling. And he wants McQueen as a brand. Like, we don't want NASCAR drivers becoming their own brands. Remember? I wouldn't be a brand. It's like Danica Patrick, in a way.
I wouldn't be a brand
But
either.
he's just intrigued. Exactly. But he would like intrigued to that big ass simulator that he just wants to go on immediately. Even though he's not completely warmed up yet. And they stick him with Cruz Ramirez, who though like McQueen thinks he's a racer, but she's actually a trainer that trains Gen 7 racers. Boy, oh boy. It can get a little confusing, but it's okay. We're going to carry on. They give him some warm-up stretches. They take his tires off. He takes a nap. How do cars take naps?
Easy. They close their eyes.
Oh, but like, and there's like a drip pan? How old do you think he is? He's almost like 11. That's not old at all. If they were racing in the sport for like 19, 20 years, then that's old, yeah. Or like a driver was in their 20s when they started and they're in their mid 40s now. Like Mark Martin would just keep going because he did that. And he could keep up with the young guys. He can in the Hendrick equipment.
And then we have the simulator crash.
Oh God, he just Pastor Maldonado'd his way in there.
And he crashed. And the whole power in the headquarters went out.
Exactly. Like, how does it go out? Like, how?
He crashed. Simple as that. Crashed right through the screen.
Oh God. Oh God. But then they want to make him a brand. And Sterling like makes a deal. If he doesn't win in Florida, he's done racing for good. It's obvious that a lot of drivers make their last starts in the Daytona 500.
Dave Marcus was one of them. And Danica Patrick.
Danica's did not go well at all.
For those who don't know, Dave Marcus is one of the OGs in the NASCAR spectrum. One of the OGs raced in the sport in the late 60s, early 70s, and retired after the 2002 Daytona 500. He had to race his way in the big show, though, but he did. I forget what place he finished in, but he kept it in one piece and hung up the helmet right after that.
No more starts ever again.
No more starts after that. Again, after the Daytona 500 in 2002, Dave Marcus hung it up. So a bit of a similarity there, but carry on.
So they go over to the beach for
Daytona Beach.
For
Nah.
Daytona Beach. Fireball Beach. It's where all the greats used to race back in the day.
We're talking the late 40s, early 50s.
And that's before they built Daytona.
There's a Daytona Beach reference. And then they jumped to Daytona when the Speedway was finished in 1959. Well, 1957.
They've been there
and then it finished late 1958, early 1959. The track was finished. Since then, the Daytona 500 has been a thing every year since February.
And it's a very big one if you win it. It's one of the biggest paying ever.
If not the biggest pay, period.
They do some things. They do like drag racing on the beach. And And then they had Lewis Hamilton, call out speeds. And they're learning about like racing, and like they talk about all types of stuff that a lot of racing fans will probably know, but it gets a lot of newer ones interested in the sport and going back to its roots.
Yeah, at this stage, Lewis Hamilton, well, he still is as of this recording. As of this recording, he still races for Mercedes. Even in 2017, he raced for Mercedes. 9-win season for him in 2017 and 4-time
And he won the
champion.
title.
Wrapped it up in Mexico. He had to do it the hard way, but still wrapped it up in Mexico. And then won another championship, and then another, and then another. He's a 7-time champion.
And that's it.
And it's an all-time GOAT. No one can tell me otherwise.
Yep.
But carry on.
First, let's carry on. So, next thing that happens is they go to a figure 8 race.
Which was a
They go to a figure 8 race at Thunder Hollow. It's like a demolition derby.
Which was a horrible idea.
Would you go there or no?
No, I would not.
Or would you try a different racetrack? Would you try a different racetrack?
Either that or some arcade where they have a simulator or something. Would you? What would your approach be?
I would probably take you to like an arcade and played Daytona USA nonstop until we got tired.
Or a NASCAR game. Believe it or not, there's a NASCAR game that's a NASCAR simulation in an arcade you can find. NASCAR Racing from EA Sports, and another one called NASCAR Team Racing. Yes, I played those nonstop when I saw those in an arcade. I mean, are you surprised? Y'all know me. For those who are, for those, I can't even freaking talk. This is why I stay silent. And this is why I keep to myself and stay silent every single now and again. But for those who know me for a very long time, and what I just said, are y'all surprised? Again, for those who know me for a really long time at this point, I don't think y'all are. Are you, Jessica?
Hell no. No.
As soon as I saw those, I played those the entire time. Out of all the machines in different games that they had, that was the one game.
I don't think entering
a one game.
I don't think entering a figure 8 race is a bad. Entering a figure 8 race is a bad idea. You can't even test your top speed at this track.
I'm a NASCAR fan. What do you expect?
I'm not doing a demolition derby. I'm just going to an arcade or going to another racetrack for private testing.
Likewise, I take the same approach. They did do that at the abandoned dirt track, Cruising Lightning.
At Thomasville.
Where Doc was dominating and did an infamous flip. The flip and win, you could say.
It's not like they turned him or rattled his cage.
Whoever was racing him tried slamming him into the wall deliberately.
They talked about old stories and they were training.
And one of
like a Rocky montage
that they were told was Junior Johnson, or Junior Midnight Moon, as he's called in the Cars universe. River Scott,
and he unfortunately passed away in 2019.
And who portrays Wendell Scott, who also sadly passed away in 1990, I believe. Yeah, 1990. Who won a NASCAR race, believe it or not, December 1st, 1993, at Jacksonville, Florida. He beat them all. He beat them all.
But
they didn't drop
here's the catch.
And then when they did drop the checkered flag, he was in third place. This was during an era where
segregation was a key. Yeah, exactly. Because they separated us from African Americans. Because like that's when like whites were separated from African Americans. Again, I don't want to get too racial here. But you know what I'm saying? I do. And you probably learned about this in history class.
I have numerous times. And I'm sure a lot of listeners out there probably have as well.
Especially with the one with Brown versus the Board of Education. We're not going to get into
But
that.
eventually,
We're getting
Winfield
off topic.
he did get the win. He was declared the winner. He was declared the winner, and NASCAR did credit him the victory. He got the money, he got the trophy, but no one was there to celebrate with him. But did that stop Wendell Scott? No, he kept racing until he had a crash at Talladega, I believe, which ended his racing career. To my knowledge, at least, crash at Talladega ended his career a few years later.
Because Talladega was like dangerous. It was like bigger than Daytona.
It still is. Don't get twisted. It still is. Bigger.
It still
wider,
is.
faster, and more scary, and more nerve-wracking.
If you were driving on this track, would you get nervous?
Would you? Because I would.
Me too. At least we're at Daytona first race and not Talladega. First thing for my racing series in NR 2003 on Discord.
Which is Fantasy Series.
Yes, and I'm a driver in that, and I've won 2 championships in.
Hats off to you, and congratulations.
Thanks. Anyways, let's get back to what we were talking about. And then there was this thing called moonshining where they had to outrun the police by opening up their motors to make them go faster.
True story.
So they could outrun
that actually
them.
happened. That actually happened.
True story. And they also had a quote unquote handicap race where McQueen and Cruz is playing Jackson Storm, and McQueen is playing himself because he's the star of the movie. Duh. Like, he's the star of the movie. Duh. And then the other next gens are getting worried about, like, where is McQueen? It's like when he disappeared, like, where is he? And then they go off to Florida. And McQueen is still doing his own thing, passing cars left and right. Then and Cruz Ramirez also learned this stuff as well. But what I'm saying is, we are like, whoo. And then he's just pushing through. And then a big wreck happens. And McQueen wants Cruz to come back. Because he's given the 95 to her. Alvin, you still with me here?
I'm still here.
Good. I thought you left or something.
I never left.
Good. And then they had the driver change, like I said earlier. And then Cruz unfortunately struggles to the racing conditions at firsthand. And then when McQueen gets on the mic, you know she's about to go down. She's just moving her way up. She's not like Hailie Deegan. We all know how atrocious Hailie Deegan is. Is that right?
She was recently sacked from an Xfinity ride, so that just proves your point.
And then Cruz would pit, and then Jackson Storm is starting to worry him and thinks, oh, it's a fan, that it's a girl in a costume. The girl in the costume was put in the race. And and you know what? You know who Jackson's crew chief is?
Ray Evernham.
Ray Evernham.
Former crew chief of Jeff Gordon. Those two had a lot of chemistry. A lot of chemistry in the 90s. Even before Jeff Gordon moved up to Winston Cup, they were working together in the Busch Series too. That infamous #1 Baby Ruth car in the Busch Series, man. Iconic. Michael Lynette actually raced the throwback to it too a few years ago.
Yeah.
And Gordon and Ray Evernham will be working together up until 1999. 1999, they split.
And where did Ray Evernham would start his own team?
1999, they split. Late 1999, they split. They still worked throughout 1999, the vast majority of it, but then later on in the late stages, September, October, around that area, Jeff and Ray Evernham split.
And
Jeff was still racing the 24, obviously, but Jeff had a new crew chief. I forget who
his
the crew
name
chief's name
Robbie
was.
Loomis. Is it Robbie? I think his first name was like Robbie Loomis or something. I don't remember.
Robbie Loomis was Jeff Gordon's crew chief, but
I know he was in 2001
they
when
won
they
the
switched from
championship
Rainbow
that year.
to
The Flames.
and Flames. Exactly, the Flames era. First year of the Flames.
Brian Whitesell was his name.
Excuse me? Who?
Brian Whitesell.
What has he done?
You want to know something funny? In their first outing, they won
Yeah.
Martinsville. And guess what? They won it again the following weekend at Charlotte. So Brian, they won 2 races together.
And then Robbie would come on.
And then it was
like
Robbie
2000,
Loomis in 2000.
Oh. Yeah. Then Cruz would be right behind Jackson Storm.
And that would be Loomis was Jeff Gordon's crew chief from 2000 to midway through 2005. Because that's when right when the chase began, Steve Letarte was on top of the pit box. And then Steve Letarte was
Dale
Jr.
Jr.'s
pit box in 2011.
And the rest is history with them.
2011 to 2014.
That's iconic.
Steve Letarte and Jeff Gordon, they had good chemistry. They had good chemistry together. Especially 2007 when they won 6 races and finished in the top 10 on 30 occasions. But ultimately came up short. Second in the points. Losing out to Jimmy Johnson by 77 points. In the Winston Cup format, Jeff Gordon would have been champion.
And he would have 5.
6. Because the Winston Cup format, Jeff Gordon would win the 2004 Nextel Cup. Had the Winston Cup format
over Kurt Busch.
Speaking of who, Jeff Gordon was also in the third Cars film as well. But again, like with Strip Brothers, had just one line. Speaking of Cars 3,
interviewed and he
where were we at?
We were talking about Cruz getting in. I was talking about that Cruz was behind Jackson Storm. And then on the last lap, she did the wall ride. She did the wall move. Like the wall flip. Flip and win. Or as Ross Chastain would call it, the Hail Melon.
I can see where you're coming from.
But we can't do it on a...
But she was forced into the wall.
She was forced to the wall. If Chastain was forced into the wall and did a wall ride... Oh, God. Imagine if Cruz wall ride instead of flipped.
Even if she did, she would not make it. That would not be possible.
But the Hail Melon is not possible here.
Short track, maybe, but at the super speedway, no way.
Oh, hell no. Hells no. And then all the next-gen NASCAR drivers congratulate her, which is what you should do, right?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
And then we get to the ending credits. Well, the ending scene.
And then Cruz would sign with Team Dynaco.
Landon McQueen on the other hand.
McQueen was listed as a co-winner.
With the biggest surprise in Doc Hudson colors.
Yep.
That was a touching moment.
I think Cruz became friends with Daniel Suarez.
I believe so.
Yeah, and I bet you she would be invited to his wedding, and she would be invited to because Suarez is now officially a U.S. citizen. Congratulations.
You forgot to mention Paul Newman was also in the Cars 3.
All
those audio files you've heard from Paul Newman's side
are archived from the first film.
Ripped out from the archives. Put them in the third film.
Yep.
Rest in peace, his soul.
And George's soul, too.
And that was pretty much everybody. That's Cars 3. All 3 movies.
Do you think there's going to be a 4th one?
I doubt it. Do you?
All I ask is a top... I think Bryce said they hopes Jimmy Johnson in the Brickyard 400 gets a top 10 or 15 out of this.
Or William Byron wins it. But yeah, that's all the Cars movies reviewed. Again. But this time in the words of Jessica Strauss here. You already heard from Bryce. Now you've heard from Jessica.
Yes, you have.
Best one of the whole series? I think I know the answer to it. It's the first one. I know it. Is it the first one in your book?
First one in my book. Yeah.
Knew it.
Yes.
That's because I had another Jessica on here a while ago for my first episode.
Is it
I
Jessica
believe
Goggins?
she said, yes, she said that Cars 3 is at the top of her list. Then Cars 1 and then Cars 2.
I agree with Cars 2 at the bottom, but Cars 3 and 1 need to be switched.
We all have different opinions, though. In a way, I can see
Exactly.
Jessica ranked it as Cars 3 at the top. In a way, I can see that. Me, personally, Cars 1 at the top, obviously.
Yes.
Cars 3 second, and Cars 2 in third.
At the very, very bottom.
Of the barrel. We also said Fast
Bottom
and
of the
Furious.
barrel.
You've seen all the Fast and Furious movies, I'd presume. Now that we got all the Cars movies out of the way and dusted.
No, but I've heard about them, but I've never seen them.
Not one.
Not one. But I've also seen like Street Outlaws. My grandfather was a huge fan of Street Outlaws. They do a bunch of like drag. That like Street Outlaws?
I never watched that. I'm guessing that's drag racing or something.
Yeah, and they do it on the street. And they said to not try any of this shit at home.
Well, obviously, because now
Remember,
and you're going to get behind bars for that if you're doing it on public roads.
oh God, no. Oh God, no. And all their censored, and all their swearing is censored too.
So you've not one time seen a Fast and Furious movie?
Nope.
Damn, I got to get you up to speed with that. I've watched the first 6. 7 is next on my hit list. So eventually, at some point, we're gonna go. Well, more so, me and Bryce is gonna go in-depth detail on the Fast and Furious saga. You're more than welcome to tag along if you're around to do so. If me and Bryce record simultaneously, you're more than welcome to tag along. Though I highly recommend you watch the movies first before reviewing them.
And then we can talk about it. Okay. Okay.
You know I'm saying this to you, right? Since you haven't seen any of the Fast and Furious movies.
Right. Probably try my best to watch them just in case so that we can talk about them again.
Start with the first one that's titled The Fast and the Furious, which came out in 2001. That's the one you start off with.
Right.
And after you finish with that, I'll shoot you a text and which one is... Either way, I'll notify you which movie comes next. Then after that, you shoot me a text again. And I'll let you know what movie comes next after that. And then the one after that. And the one after... You get the idea.
There's like 10 of them.
And there's going to be another one in the year 2026. 2 years from now.
Oh, boy.
They just don't stop coming.
Like in Shrek.
They don't stop coming.
But I'm not really ready for Shrek 5.
Why is that?
I'm really not. Because I don't know if Shrek 5 is going to be any good.
Why say that?
I mean, yeah, I know Shrek is big.
And your point is?
It might, I don't think it's going to flop, but it might not do as much as the predecessors.
Such as 4, 3, 2.
I thought Shrek Forever. Right. I know Schaefer Rules Productions thinks that Shrek the Third is the worst Shrek movie.
Shrek the Third?
Yes.
I was watching that with a friend of mine not too long ago. Now that you bring that up.
And did you like it or no?
I can't even say so. I only watched the first 20 minutes because I had to do some after that. Another thing we can touch on before we close off this recording, the races that we went to and how you became a NASCAR fan in the first place. Starting with how you became a NASCAR fan in the first place 10 years ago.
For me, I just don't remember, honestly. I think I just saw it on and I just started watching it and I've been watching it ever since. That's my theory.
Watch Cars 1 before 2014?
Yes, numerous times. And yes, to the point where my DVD actually scratches. Because I remember, if you were younger and you remember like sticking your finger through the DVD in the center, it scratches. Mine scratches. Is your car scratched or no?
It is.
It scratches when McQueen runs out of gas. It
Just
scratches
the first
there.
one. 2 and 3
Yes.
are just fine.
Where does it scratch on your end?
I don't remember.
Don't remember? Well, I do remember mine scratches up. Like, what scene in the first Cars movie does your DVD scratch on?
Where they announced McQueen went missing. Now that I remember.
That's when it starts scratching.
That's it. What about you?
Mine was the one where when he runs out of fuel, trying to escape. That's when mine scratches.
So it just skips that part then?
No, it just scratches in general. It just scratches. Yeah, it just scratches when he runs out of fuel. It just scratches or something like that.
I'm gonna make this quick. So it was before 2014, then you watched it. I'm guessing you got hooked into it immediately,
Yes.
and you don't remember what race it was that you watched 10 years ago.
Right.
Me, I watched NASCAR even before cars came out. Though at the
Since
time I was a
when?
casual fan. I wasn't fully into it just yet. I was a casual fan. Yeah, I was a fan at the time, but I wasn't a diehard fan yet. Again, mind
Right.
you, I wouldn't become a diehard fan until that one night, that one fateful night, the 2012 Budweiser Shootout, February 18th, 2012. Since that night, I became a diehard NASCAR fan, a fully diehard NASCAR fan ever since. But before then, I was a
Yes.
casual fan. I was still a fan, but didn't watch it or follow it as much. But I was still a fan of it, though. But again, didn't watch it and wasn't around to see what was going on much, if that makes sense. So years
Right.
2011 and earlier years, I would watch races from time to time every now and again when it was on, and I got cars vibes. Maybe got a bit too excited for my own good. What I mean by that is I would sometimes jump on the bed as some camera shots would just go with the cars, with the camera shots.
And you were
I was
jumping.
so excited.
And you were jumping on it.
I was jumping on the bed in excitement, and
And
sometimes
what
it
did your
got me in
mother say?
trouble, but we ain't going to talk about that. All I know is that I was a NASCAR fan even then, but it wasn't until the shootout in 2012 I became a diehard fan ever since. But again, 2011 and earlier years, I was still a fan, but not as big of a fan yet at the time. But in your case, you became a fully diehard fan right from the off. Or were you a casual fan, like how I was starting out?
Yeah. And there's sometimes where I had to miss it because of school or work.
And your first race was a 2015 AAA 400, which you discussed. Now, what other races have you been to in person other than Dover 2015 or Atlanta 2024?
I had Dover 2016.
Which
The
one?
first driver I met was Trevor, the fall one, and it was Trevor. I met my first drivers, Trevor Bain and Brian Scott, who are no longer in the sport. Trevor Bain was very nice. He does do stuff with NASCAR on Fox now. Brian Scott, he's just doing
Family
quiet. He's
thing.
just been quiet. Wait, what?
Family matters.
I didn't go in 2017. 2018 was Spring Dover.
I was there too. Well, I went to both Dover and Pocono races in 2017, but still. Which one? The one Johnson won?
The spring. I went to Spring 2018 Dover. Harvick won that one.
You said 2017 as well?
I did not say 2017. 2017, I didn't go to any races.
2018, you did.
Then I went. I did. Then I went to 2019 Spring Dover.
That MT.
I stopped, and that's
Montreux Junior, essentially.
yeah, and I stopped hating Logano.
Yeah, because you met him that day.
Yes, that's what stopped it. And then also we had and then I went to Charlotte Roval 2019.
That Chase from the same place won.
Yep, I was very excited.
I was a hell of
Then 2020.
Dale Jr. won in front of my face. Pocono 2014. The June race I'm talking about. For those not to be confused, he won both races in 2014 in Pocono. I was there for the one that he won in June 2014. That was 10 years ago. And me being a diehard Dale Jr. fan, that was wholesome to see. Very wholesome.
Was the crowd loud?
It's Dale Jr. Of course it was loud. Myself included.
I mean,
Saying that to be an a-hole, but it's just the facts.
Again, speaking of Brad Keselowski, the next race we went to is New Hampshire 2020 when Brad Keselowski won.
Albeit COVID restrictions.
Then we went to 2021 Dover with Alex Bowman.
The Hendrick Motorsports 1, 2, 3, 4 that day.
I was there to see it.
And I'm happy you were.
And then I went to 2021 New Hampshire.
That
Eric Almirola won that one.
Albeit it was shortened because of impending darkness.
Darkness, yep.
Not the first time, reminiscent of 2007 in Kansas when Greg Biffle won for the same reason. But carry on.
I mean, now Kansas Speedway has lights.
So it's no longer a problem. But back then, they didn't have lights.
When did Kansas install lights?
2014.
That's beautiful. Because of the postponement issues they had?
That and the anticipation of the pending darkness again. Reminiscent of 2007.
Right.
But with the races you went to in person, what are they?
The next race was 2022 Dover.
That Chase one.
Yeah, but I couldn't stay because I had school.
Damn. But you were still there, regardless.
Correct. In spirit.
So you were there,
2022.
But
right. 2022 New Hampshire.
That C. Bell, I believe, won.
Yes. And I went to I'm not going to talk about Xfinity races because there's a lot. I'm going to talk about Cup and Cup only. Okay?
Xfinity is a different time.
And so is trucks.
But for now, just do the Cup Series roster.
And then I did a back-to-back in 2022 with Pocono, New Hampshire and Pocono being back-to-back.
This was 2022, right?
Yes. It would be Hamlin. However, he and Kyle Busch both got disqualified.
Because of a piece of
guess what?
Tape.
Yeah.
Your minds are probably blown for those who are not into NASCAR. But yeah, Hamlin and Kyle Busch were excluded from the 2022 Pocono results all because of a piece of tape. All because of that. One small tape.
What the hell was that?
It's laughable, but yet at the same time, in NASCAR's eyes, against the rules. Apparently.
And if you were a Chase fan, were you shocked?
Were you?
I was shocked.
So was I. I'm sure everyone was, especially those who were there, myself included. Could have seen Kurt Busch race, but had a crash in qualifying that pretty much ended his career. Instead, Ty Gibbs took his place, which was his debut in Cup. He finished in the top 20 from what I can remember. Top 20 in his first outing. Didn't have any run-ins either, so that's a bonus. And kept it into one piece.
Yeah, that's not bad for your first start. And now the next one was...
What's the next one?
The next one, now we're going to 2023.
So the one that Hamlin and Kyle Busch were excluded from, Chase Elliott won, who finished third, but because of Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin's exclusion, Chase was promoted from third to first. So that was my second
boy.
Chase win, because I was there when he won Dover in the fall of 2018. But what's your next race?
It was 2023.
Charlotte, Coca-Cola 600.
Coca-Cola 600. Yep. Yep. I don't think I went to Dover. I don't think I went to Dover in 2023. Wait. No, I did not. I didn't.
It got rained out.
Is once again, I decided not to go. In New Hampshire, I decided to not go. Wait, did I? Hang on. Let me just check. Let me check my NASCAR pictures. Yeah, 2023 got rained out. Yeah, 2023 I didn't go because it got rained out. The first one was a Coca-Cola 600 in 2023. Yep, that's right. Coke 600 2023 because I have a photo of Eric Jones busting a radiator on NASCAR. And then Pocono 2023 when I met you guys for the first time.
I still won't forget your reactions when you saw me and Bryce for the first time firsthand. But is that all from 2023?
That's all from 2023. And then
Through this
the current
year,
year, 2024. I went to Atlanta and I went to Richmond and I went to Pocono.
You said Richmond wasn't one of the greatest ones.
It was the worst.
Let me guess, because of Denny Hamlin winning?
That and the racing just sucked in general.
I say the same thing for the 2013 party in the Poconos 400. Hot, tired, bothered, suffering because I didn't like Jimmy Johnson at the time and he dominated that race. And to add salt to the wound.
I mean, Bryce would be happy. And Bryce would be happy.
So you go back to a year, 2012. That was the year I attended my first NASCAR race. June 10th, 2012. That Joey Logano won. And get this. Y'all know Joey Logano races for Penske today, right? 2012?
Yes.
Logano was racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. For those who don't remember that or don't know that, now you do. Or now you remember. And get this, too. When Logano won Pocono in 2012, Logano has what? 30-something wins? Slightly over 30 wins?
33.
Guess what? When he won Pocono in 2012, that was his second career win. And that was his first top 5 of 2012. And then he would get another one in the Coke 0400. His only top 5 in the whole of 2012. Let's just say 2012 was not one of the greatest years for Logano in his final hurrah with Joe Gibbs Racing equipment. And since 2013, he's been with Penske, and that's where he's been ever since. As of
They
this
all
recording,
did. He never left.
That's where he's been ever since.
And he never left.
And to this day, fun fact, Joey Logano remains to this day as the youngest Cup Series winner when he won New Hampshire 15 years ago at the age of 19 years of age. 19. Albeit New Hampshire, the June race was rain shortened, but still winning a Cup Series race at age 19. Again, the youngest ever winner in Cup Series history, a record that still stands 15 years later as of this recording.
Will Jesse Love change things when he comes to the Cup Series?
How old is that? How old is he?
18.
No.
Not happening?
Unless if someone calls him up for next year, then maybe. But I doubt that. He needs more time.
He would that's rushing, and we do not want that. Does everybody hear me on that?
Now, what was your favorite NASCAR race that you've been to? And only the ones that you've been to.
Not the ones I saw on TV.
The ones you
My favorite
in person.
Is Atlanta.
Because of the finish. And because Suarez signed the Cars 3 casing.
Yes.
For me, there's a lot. But what about your
Which
least
one's
favorite?
your favorite?
What about your least favorite before I say mine?
Richmond.
Which one was
It
that
was
bad,
awful. The
huh?
racing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You even had
It
food
fucking
poisoning?
sucked. I'm not. It was Hamlin who won that one.
You even had food poisoning after the race? Or was it during the
I
race?
had food. I had food poisoning after like the next day. I had food poisoning
To add
and it
salt
fucking sucked.
to add salt to the wound. Food poisoning.
I was supposed to go to King. I was supposed to go to King's Dominion, but we decided to go home early because I was like puking my guts out. And
Sorry about that.
oh boy. Yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad talking about it here.
I was the one to shoot you ruffled up, got upset with someone for finishing second or third or top five. Top five is still good
Logano was
nonetheless.
second. Logano was
Felix
second.
was
I
upset
remember,
with
yeah.
somebody. I remember that.
That
That
Carson
was Richmond.
Hocevar thing is from that same race.
And Horsford got into it with somebody and retaliated at Nashville. I remember that one.
Oh
I
boy.
forget who it was, but
Why did I don't get like why are some of these drivers behaving like a bunch of teenagers?
some of
They're
them
acting like a bunch of
are
teens.
teenagers. But you asked me what was my favorite NASCAR race that I've been to in person. Again, there's a lot. There's a lot. Though you can never
Oh
forget the
boy.
first one. And for me, 2012, when Joe Logano won.
Did you hate Logano at the time?
I did. Nowadays, I like him.
Who do you
So it's
hate?
funny how the tides turn. I disliked Logano when he was with Gibbs and early years with Penske. And
I
it
mean,
was
Logano does so much for
around that time, especially his days with Joe Gibbs, he was less hated. The new kid on the block, the likable kid. He went from the most
Mark
essentially
Martin
the most anticipated driver on the grid to nowadays the most hated driver on the grid. And he's again today
Hamlin.
he's the most arguably the most hated driver on today's grid. And I like him, despite the fan base not
Hamlin?
liking him. Same for Hamlin too.
Ham. God damn. My goodness.
You sound surprised.
Yeah, I don't know what in the world. I mean, you'll never forget your first one, sure.
And the worst one,
But
2013 Pocono, that Jimmy Johnson won. Snooze fest,
because you
hot,
like
tired, bored,
and
little
Jimmy
to no
Johnson.
racing, little to no action. Yeah, there was action, but there was
And Jimmy Johnson.
uh freaking train
Right?
racing. Granted, we see train racing every now and again, but the pack was so spread out. It was a
Like,
it was a snooze fest. And
I
it
wonder
didn't
what
help as it was so hot that day too.
oh god. Oh my
But
god, yeah.
at least
I'm
I
not.
did get to purchase
I
some
do
diecast in one of the merchandise tents, so I guess that made up for it. At least.
ay 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 ay.
Every year when I go to a NASCAR race, I go to one of the merchandise tents. Well, almost every year because last couple years I didn't get the chance to do so, but pretty much for almost every single NASCAR race I've gone to, I go to a merchandise tent to see what they got and get diecasts to remember that occasion and also to expand my collection.
Exactly.
At the moment, I currently
Exactly.
have over 600 plus NASCAR diecasts.
Holy shit. That's a lot.
Been collecting since August of '08, August of 2008. If not a
Damn.
bit earlier or later than that. But I know for a fact I started collecting NASCAR diecast in 2008. So at this point, 16 years.
Yep. That sounds like fun.
First ones I got was Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards, Barbara Labonte, Tony Stewart in the 2008 primary paint schemes, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Casey Kane. Well, aside from Jeff Gordon, because when I picked it up, when I picked a Jeff Gordon car for the first time, it was his it was a green card that he ran at Vegas and crashed out in. What was it? Nucleate? Nyquoet? I don't know how you say the sponsor, but it's a green card that he raced and crashed infamously in Vegas in 2008. He also ran in 2007 as well, which he finished in
Yikes.
2007, but crashed in 08 again in Las Vegas. And I think there's a theory when Jeff Gordon crashed in Vegas in 2008, that pretty much derailed his like how Jimmy Johnson had his crash in 2017 at Pocono. And that he wasn't the same again after that. Some say it's the
Yeah.
same for Jeff Gordon in that sense.
For when?
Wait, what?
What race for Jeff Gordon was it?
Las Vegas, 2008. UAW
He was never dominant,
400.
and he was never dominant ever again.
Arguably, because there were years where he was consistent. 2014, to a degree, 2015. There was also 2011, and that was it. 2010 and 2008, he went winless. In 2009, yeah, he got that one win in Texas, but didn't do much. He just didn't do much. He was
Exactly.
there, essentially.
Also, Denny Hamlin's like Mavis car looked like a backup car.
We talked about this a few days ago before Pocono. To me, in my opinion,
Exactly.
I like the paint scheme. I don't know about you, but I like the paint scheme.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. And I'm hearing for the Brickyard, they're bringing back Larson's Indy 500, like Coca-Cola 600 scheme.
Makes sense because he ran the Indy 500.
But that's
sadly,
what about
didn't run the 600 because of freaking Mother Nature, man.
and humidity?
More so,
Mother Nature also screwed over. Mother Nature also screwed over my plans to meet a lot of drivers at Pocono. That's why it sucked.
But the racing action was entertaining.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah.
And more so with that crash with Corey LaJoie and Kyle Busch getting into it. Hence the huge wreck in turn one. Second time seeing Ryan Blaney in front of my face.
And it was
second time. For me,
this was also my second time too.
For me, at least. My first time
this was also
funny enough, Pocono. But you rewind the clock 7 years when Ryan was racing for the Wood Brothers.
The Wood Brothers.
Held off Kevin Harvick, took home the dub. Win number 99 for the Wood Brothers. For Ryan Blaney, it was his first. That's another one that will be wholesome. And that was also Bubba Wallace's first Cup Series start too, subbing in for Alec Almirola, who had that back injury in Kansas. Another that huge shunt in Kansas for that matter. Since then, Wood Brothers have not seen victory lane since. Eventually, they'll hit that century number of 100. But when and where and who, I don't know.
It's going to be Josh Berry. It's going to be Josh Berry, big time.
Call me crazy when I say this, but when Paul Menard was racing for them in 2018 and 19, more so 2018, I thought Paul Menard was going to do it. Hot take, I know, but I was young at the time. He did win a stage. At Talladega in the spring, but again, he didn't do much, sadly. But
I wish he did something.
Eventually, the Wood Brothers will hit that century number of 100, but who, where, and when? Those are the questions that I'm just.
It'll be Josh Berry at Martinsville next year.
I can see why you said it, because he won his first Xfinity race at Martinsville a few years ago. So I can see why you say that. If Wood Brothers
do you think that sounds accurate?
Good car for the short track to a good setup,
Hopefully, Josh Berry has a great season at the Wood Brothers next year.
I hope. You say Martinsville. That's one of the tracks that I'm hoping to go to at some point. I've been to
Me
Pocono.
too.
I've been to Pocono 15 times now. 15 times. Both races in 2012, both races in 2013, the June race in 2014, and again in 2015. Both races in 2017, both races again in 2018. The first race in 2019, the first race in 2021, and 2022, 2023, and 2024.
So,
I've seen it all.
yeah,
I've seen it all.
let's wrap
And
it up, shall we?
For Dover, I've been there 2015. You got to count for me. 2015, that Jimmy Johnson won. Both races in 2017. The fall race in 2018. The fall race again in 2019. And this year, that happened
2020.
a few months ago. How many is that?
Excuse me. 6.
So I've been to Dover 6 times then.
I wish I could go back to Dover.
So I've been to more
I
than
miss it.
20 NASCAR events in person then. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to hold off the Indy 500 idea, unfortunately.
Even though it wasn't a NASCAR race that I went to this particular track, I did also visit not one, but 2 tracks. Even though NASCAR wasn't in town, I did visit 2 other tracks. Atlanta in 2014 and Talladega in 2016. Again, even though NASCAR wasn't in town, still got a chance to see those tracks for the first time in person with my own eyes and took a tour around the Talladega Superspeedway, the entire speedway,
Dang.
and saw the museum too. Different cars from the archives, even the wrecked cars, man. Ricky Craven's wreck from 1996, Kenny Schrader from 1995, Carl Edwards from 2009. They had a lot. They had
Oh,
a lot.
crap.
Jimmy Johnson's race winning car from 2006 in the spring. Rob Moroso's car from 1990. Kevin Harvick's Pennzoil car from 2007. I don't know what it's like right as of right now, but this was 2016 from what I can recall, because that was the year that I went to see the museum. Because that was the year, that's when I saw those cars in the museum. Again, I don't know what it's like right now, but that was what it was like in 2016 when I went last time. But anyways, I'm out of breath. Are you? Because
Me
I am.
too. Yeah, I'm out of breath from like all that blabbering and that what I did.
That we did. Mainly you with those
What do
freaking
you
cars
mean?
reviews.
Oh boy. Sometimes it can get a little tongue twisting. Let's wrap it up, shall we?
Agreed, because it's well, as it's recording, it is currently in the middle of summer. It's the middle of summer as I'm recording this. I don't know when this will come out because I have a video project in the works and I don't want to put my computer in a lot of stress with working on this podcast and another podcast that I recorded before this one. So I'm working on the video
Exactly.
project first and then this podcast, along with the other podcasts before this one. And also stuff that I got going on in my personal life that I got to take care of as well. So there's that factor too. Again, so I don't know when this will come out. I really don't. But eventually, when it's out, you know it's out. But until then, I need a break.
I need some water.
I need a break after all that talking, especially it's over 90 degrees, man. Whew. Jessica, I think we should end. I think we should end this podcast here and continue another time. What do you say? Because I think we
Oh
did
my
enough for
god,
one day,
yes.
for one sitting.
Holy hell. I mean, it's like 84. It was a 95 today.
I think we need to get off the line and cool off. What do you say?
I agree.
That's exactly what we're going to do. So, episode 9 of Turn 4 Sparks controversy in the books. We got a lot covered up today. There's going to be more covered up down the line. I don't know when, but eventually we'll get back on, whenever that will be. But until then, hope you all enjoyed this podcast. And until the next one, this is Turn 4, signing off the mic as always. And until next time, and further notice, as I always say, peace out, stay safe, and have a good one. Jessica, if you have any
Bye,
final
guys.
things, or if you have any final sayings or a final sign off, spit it out now before I end the
Yeah.
recording.
I'm Jessica Strauss. I'll see you soon.